Dating apps have been sinisterly designed to hijack the reward pathway in the brain, keeping men addicted, keeping men chasing the carrot on the stick, while yielding very low levels of results, and absorbing all of the energy that could be otherwise used to meet women in much better ways. And if it wasn't this way, if Tinder was the solution and was so amazing, I wouldn't be making this video. Instead, I would be a swiper myself, and this video would be titled, How to Pimp Yourself Out on Dating Apps and Have the Coolest Pictures and Type the Coolest Text Messages. But it is this way. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how these dating apps commandeer the brain and keep men engaged on these apps as long as possible, regardless of the results that they actually yield. And you might have heard of dopamine before, I'm guessing. So this is one of the natural chemicals in the brain that rewards us when we take actions that help us survive. So for example, when you eat a meal, when you eat a nice juicy steak, you're gonna receive some dopamine from eating this nice juicy steak, and this is gonna tell you that you should continue eating this food. It's gonna help you survive and reproduce to carry on the species, and that's why we've developed this reward pathway in our brains to help us survive as a species. Now, this gets completely hijacked by a lot of different technologies, but specifically Tinder in this video and other dating apps like Hinge, regardless of if you're having any level of success on these apps at all. And I'm gonna talk about all the ways that it does this. I'm gonna expose this entire industry like nobody has ever done before, and they're probably going to assassinate me now. Who knows? So the first way that it does this is it tickles the lizard brain through visual stimuli. And a lot of guys don't even consider this fact at all. So I don't know if you've really noticed this, but with the pictures that women post on these dating apps, what you're essentially watching is a pornographic slideshow. What you're watching with every swipe of your finger, is you're getting a reward by seeing all of the bodies of these women, and they're barely dressed, a lot of them. A lot of them are just completely showing everything off. A lot of them are bikini pictures or whatever. A lot of them are those, gym pictures where women are in those tight shorts. A lot of them are showing their breasts. And I think a lot of guys forget this. Actually, I know that a lot of guys forget this. And you're getting instant dopamine from seeing these pictures. You're getting instant dopamine from seeing these pictures. You're like, damn, I cannot believe this. And now you swipe to see another angle of this girl. Not only do you see the girl, but you're like, all right, let me see the next angle. Damn, again. Next angle. Damn, this girl is hot. And now you're just getting dopamine. You're just getting a ton of dopamine from seeing this girl, barely clothed and in a bunch of angles. And so this creates what I call a mini slot machine effect as you alternate between unattractive girl and attractive girl. Because with every lever pull of the mini slot machine, or with every swipe of the finger, you don't know if you're gonna see an attractive girl. You don't know if you're gonna see an unattractive girl. So this is what creates that mini slot machine effect. And you're just chasing that next visual of seeing your local bimbo and in a bikini. And you're hoping that the next pull of the lever, you're hoping that the next swipe is gonna be a hit. And now, something else is that when a guy sees an attractive woman, testosterone is actually released in the brain. And as we all know, testosterone just feels amazing. And this is the chemical that is responsible for sexual energy, sexual libido, and drive. Testosterone also gives men more confidence, and it lowers fear levels. So it makes you more comfortable, it makes you more confident, and it makes you have that sexual drive when you see an attractive girl. And this is something you've probably noticed in real life as well. But your brain is being tricked by these visual images to think that you are around these women when you're really not. So, like looking at these pictures, I'm sure you've watched porn at least once in your life. looking at these pictures actually make you feel sexually aroused, even though you're not in the vicinity of any women. So your lizard brain thinks you're around all these women. Your lizard brain thinks it's actually in abundance with women by seeing all these images when it's really not at all. So that's number one, is all this visual stimuli. And especially if you're a guy who's trying to quit pornography, yet you're looking at these essentially barely nude women, barely clothed women in a slideshow, it's gonna be another thing that makes it very hard for you to quit porn if you're alone in your room swiping on these images. That's just another side effect. And if that wasn't enough already to keep men addicted, there's more. The next thing I want to talk about is what I call the big slot machine. Guys, understand that these dating app algorithms are not random. They're specifically designed to keep you engaged as long as possible for maximum profit. That is all they care about. They do not care about you, of course. They are a massive conglomerate. We'll talk about that later. So when you first download one of these dating apps, what they are going to do with the algorithm is they are going to give you more reach than they will in a couple days or maybe in a week. They are going to send you your profile to a ton more women than they are going to in a couple of days. Why do they do this? Well, because you are initially going to get a bunch of matches, you are going to feel a bunch of dopamine and a sense of validation from all of this new attention coming in. And of course, none of this is natural. This is all just a weird technological abomination. But this is a good strategy that they use, because now they have double hooks in you. Now they really have hooked you, and this makes you want to chase that feeling of getting that same level of attention from women that you did in the beginning. This is exactly what TikTok does to keep people posting on their app. When TikTok first became popularized in around 2020 or 2021, I don't really remember, but I remember I posted a few TikToks and they immediately got viral, even though I just started on the app. I later do some research into this, and of course what they do is they send a bunch more views your way when you first download the app to get you hooked, to get you on the treadmill of posting TikTok and chasing that same feeling. And this is exactly what dating apps do, guys. Look this up. This is true shit. Nobody's gonna tell you this. And so what they are is essentially digital drug dealers. They're hijacking the reward pathway in your brain, and they're very effective at doing this. They're very good at doing this, and they're smart guys behind this. And so now once you're hooked, the mechanism that they use in the big slot machine is called the variable reward schedule. Similar to how a slot machine doesn't consistently give you wins every single time you pull the lever, just like in a dating app, every single swipe is not going to give you a match or give you a date, right? But every once in a while, you're going to match with a girl and have that dopamine hit. And this creates that variable reward addiction mechanism where you are actually in anticipation. Because understand, guys, you don't just get dopamine when you get the result or when you get a reward. You have dopamine that builds up in anticipation of a reward that keeps you doing a certain behavior. And they know this very well. And so every once in a while, you're gonna get a match, you're gonna get another spike, and you're just gonna keep chasing that same feeling again. And this is how people get addicted to slot machines and a lot of other things that do not serve them very well. And God forbid that you actually succeed a little bit on these apps. God forbid you actually sleep with one of these women from these apps, because now they have hooked you so deeply into using a lot of time on this app to chase that same feeling of sleeping with a girl again using their app. And it's likely going to be much harder for you to stop using dating apps once you've actually had a little bit of success. That's the tough part about it is I wish that guys have zero success so that they quit these apps immediately rather than getting a little bit of success and chasing that same high from being able to swipe and, hook up with your local bimbo from a dating app, right? And another effect that happens is now, since you have spent a bunch of time already on the app or perhaps a little bit of money on the app, now what is created is what's called the sunk cost fallacy, and this is the fallacy where you make the decision to keep doing something based on past investments rather than on current probabilities of actually achieving the outcome. So for example, a gambler who might have already lost $1,000 in a night might decide, well, I've already spent $1,000. The odds are that if I keep going now, the odds must be that I'm going to win. I've already sunk so much money into this that I need to keep going until I'm able to win it back. And this is a fallacy, obviously, because the actual probability of this happening is very low. And it's more likely that the gambler just keeps losing his money. And oftentimes, with people with addiction, they will lose everything. They will lose absolutely everything and be destitute. Now let's combine the porn slideshow with the big slot machine of occasionally getting a match or sleeping with your local bimbo. Combine that with a guy who's searching for a romantic connection and might be under a bit of stress from life. And what we see is that when cortisol levels rise, which is the stress hormone, we tend to search for something, anything to distract ourselves from the stress. And what do guys do to distract themselves from stress? Well, they numb themselves with video games, eating food, porn, and dating apps. What we also see is that when cortisol levels are higher, the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that allows you to control your impulses and make rational decisions, is less active. So instead of weighing whether swiping is actually productive, you're more likely to just keep going, chasing that next quick spike of dopamine, rather than using your human part of your brain. You're more likely to default to the lizard part of your brain under stress. And this is why people get addicted to drugs. This is why people get addicted to alcohol, etc. And the motion of swiping itself, like swiping on the screen over and over again, this can actually be soothing. It's like a meditative practice almost, but in a cheap, almost great value Walmart kind of way, rather than like actually meditating or reading a book, right? By the way, guys, if you don't know who Match Group is, this is the conglomerate that owns Tinder, Hinge, OkCupid, Black People Meet. They own a total of 45 online dating platforms. They own every single dating platform. It is actually insane. I personally hate giving these people's algorithms the power to dictate my relationships, and I hate sitting around hoping and waiting for things to happen in my life. I much rather go take action and leverage primal psychology to create instant connections with women and meet as many women as I want to and not rely on these algorithms. One of the best parts about being a guy who talks to women in person is that within a few months, you become a guy who's within the top 10% when it comes to being confident and good with women, especially if you're Generation Z or you're a millennial, because nobody is doing it. Everybody has been socially conditioned to believing that dating apps are the only way to meet women. Nobody is approaching the girl that you see at the gym or at the park. I can guarantee you, and there's data on this too, 45% of Gen Z have never approached a girl in public. Millennials, I'm sure it's similar in 2025. If you're one of the guys watching this that wants to transform his dating life and potentially work with me to get there much quicker, I'm gonna put a link down in the description for you. I'd love for you to book a call. Let's have a chat and let's see if the mentorship's a good fit. But that's all for the video, guys, and I'll see you soon.